are next on the clock. The Eagles, the Bills, and the Steelers coming up. Number 1 in purple, Dwayne Rudd.
Now exploding on pay-per-view. In a crime capital of the world, there's never a cop around when you need one. But when this cop's around, one is all you need. Get ready for the real thing. Jackie Chan, Super Cop. Now exploding on pay-per-view. Rated R.
You are witnessing, in its entirety, the Volkswagen sales pitch.
You want to take it for a spin?
During our national test drive event, you can lease a Jetta GL for just $169 a month on a 2-year no-hassle lease, which means for the next 2 years, all you have to do is put in the gas. On the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers.
Leonard Russell of the Chargers is one of the best I ever had. The only thing he needed to learn was discipline. I think it's pretty simple. You pay attention to your coaches, you act like a gentleman off the field, and you respect your elders.
The NFL's High School Coach of the Year program salutes Don Norford as Coach of the Year.
Didn't I tell you to call your father?
Now that I'm teaching in the business, we're getting really close.
Even though my job takes me on the road a lot.
But that's no problem. I have them call me 1-800-COLLECT. It's inexpensive, so we can talk as often as we want.
Without screwing up the bottom line.
Yeah, calling with 1-800-COLLECT has really helped us get to know each other.
Yeah, we talk about business and sports and women.
By the way, how is Shelley?
That's Charlene, Dad.
Charlene.
1-800-COLLECT. They love to hear from you.
Back in New York, 20 picks and 3.5 hours in on the first round. We are 2/3 of the way done. Jacksonville on the clock. We began with St. Louis with Orlando Pace. They're getting ready for the next round. Let's head out to our Mark Malone. Mark?
Thanks, Chris. Under the new direction of head coach Dick Vermeil, the St. Louis Rams make an impact statement, drafting Orlando Pace, signing a free agent guard out of Minnesota, or from the Minnesota Vikings, John Gurak. Now they hope to turn their attention to defense. Only 4 defensive corners have been taken so far in the first round. They're hoping one's available in the second round. Now let's go to Hank Goldberg in Seattle.
On Thursday, Coach Dennis Erickson spent his day watching tapes of Florida State's games from last year, got a conviction on Walter Jones, decided if he gets Sean Springs with his pick at number 3, he's trading in a number 6 if he can to get Jones. He was successful. To the victors go the spoils. Food! What else are they going to do? They don't pick again until tomorrow in the 5th round. Tuna on right to David Bering on the left, Bob Whitsitt in the center. He's got the chicken salad. Let's go to Hempstead, where Sal Palantonio's with the Jets.
After a wild ride this morning in the top of the first round for Bill Parcells, all is quiet in the Jets' war room. It looks more and more like Parcells will sit at the top of the second round and hope that a quality defensive tackle or cornerback drops in his lap. Now let's go to Andrea Kramer in Tampa.
The Buccaneers needed playmakers for quarterback Trent Dilfer. They were dealing with the offense that scored the fewest points in the NFL last season. They've given him some major weapons in wide receiver Riedel Anthony and running back Warwick Dunn. They will listen to talk about moving up in the second round. Right now they have the 7th pick, but very, very pleased with the additions they've made on offense. Let's go to Linda Cohn in New Orleans.
The Saints picking offensive lineman Chris Nioli with their 10th pick was a surprise, even to Chris Nioli. You see, in fact, it actually woke him up. It was only 7:30 in the morning in Hawaii when the selection was made. Up next for the Saints, number 33, and they still need a running back. Now let's go to Chris Mortensen in Miami.
Jimmy Johnson has gotten Dan Marino another weapon, a playmaker, and University of Miami receiver Yatil Green. He has 1 pick in the second round, and then he's got 4 on the third. Watch out for Jimmy Johnson this weekend. Now let's go to Chris Myers in Dallas.
And the Cowboys are looking for a big playmaker on offense. Dallas drafting more for need in this draft than any in recent memory. They do not have a starting wide receiver opposite Michael Irvin, as Kevin Williams is unsigned. They also are looking for linebacker help with Darren Smith signing with Philadelphia. If Jerry Jones worked the phones, considered moving up. Right now they'll stay at 25, possibly trade out of the first round and maybe save $500,000. Let's go to Green Bay now and Gary Danielson.
Well, the Packers continue to sit tight and wait, but perhaps the two decision makers here might have tipped their hand a bit that their guy might still be on the board. Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren, about 30 minutes ago, took a phone call, looked at each other, and kind of a little wink there. Maybe their guy is still there. Let's go back to New York and Chris.
All right, Gary, thank you, and all the gang. Boy, Gary wants to get into action, doesn't he? I mean, that was like if he wasn't playing for the Lions. Get me in, coach. And, of course, it's going to be a while till we hear from the Packers unless they make a move. Jacksonville, 1 game away from the Super Bowl last year. They're 1 game away, of course, from not making the playoffs if Morton Anderson makes the field goal. But they go and beat Buffalo. They go and beat Denver. They could have easily beaten New England. They want size on the defensive front, or size is a Tom Coughlin-type pick. Although they've sent out signals that LaFleur might be their guy, how about Ronaldo Wynn on the defensive line?
I'll tell you, he's a good football player, Chris. He's very consistent. He's 288 pounds right now, and you have to remember he was only at that 250. He was an outside linebacker early in his career. Look at the strength and the improvement that Ronaldo Wynn made in the weight room. 350 bench press in 92, which was respectable. Now 485. That's tremendous upper body strength. Very active, alert football player. Like I said, a former linebacker, so you know what kind of athletic ability he has. Gives you great effort. He's not like a Bryant Young, Joe. He's not a dominator, but a very consistent, very productive football player.
I think, and you also have to take a look and say, okay, where do the Jacksonville Jaguars want to go? Well, they've tried to acquire Gilbert Brown in the free agent market. They weren't able to do that. I think that simply tells you that Tom Coughlin wants some big help up front. Look at the guys they've tried to sign. Gilbert Brown, defensive tackle. Aeneas Williams, Tommy Light, cornerback. Quentin Coriat. Spellman. These have all tried in the last 2 years. They've tried to sign these people. They've all looked for help on the defensive side of the ball. Gilbert Brown and Spielman, the two guys that they really wanted to try and add to this front. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a defensive lineman. I would be more inclined to think that they're going to go the tight end route, though.
LaFleur.
Yeah.
Doesn't move down the wing like Guy LaFleur used to for the Canadians, but David LaFleur could be their pick. Let's go down to Andrea Kramer in Tampa. Do you have a clue on where Jacksonville is headed at this moment, Andrea?
Well, I agree, Chris, with everything that Mel just said. When I spoke to Tom Coughlin yesterday, he gave me 4 players that he would really like to have. The #1 player he gave me was Wynn. He said they'd move him inside. They would start him in there. You talked about Gilbert Brown. It was the #1 priority they wanted to get. They could not make the deal with him. Green Bay retained him. Tom Coughlin told me he's a great effort guy. He's a low pad player. He stays square. He's very high on his technique. Now, if Tom gets that old offensive mindedness about him back, the other guy that they might consider would be the tight end LaFleur. He likes his size, but I think right now he's thinking defensive line, and I think that player would be Ronaldo Wynn.
Yeah, that's the way we had it, Andrea. 1-2. Let's go to the pick a minute ago by Minnesota, Dwayne Rudd. They're thinking on that?
Well, the top players that they wanted were gone. The receivers and cornerbacks were both gone. Now, you guys were talking about Ray Caruth. I do not think that they were very high on him. He is slipping. We've been talking about that already. They just were not pleased with him, certainly enough not to take him. They feel that with Rudd, he's got versatility, that he can play all 3 positions. Remember, Eddie McDaniel is coming back from knee surgery. Dixon Edwards had nicked up at the end of the season. Players are getting older. They feel that there's not the pressure that they would have to get Rudd in there, but they definitely like his versatility, Chris.
All right, Andrea, thank you. Jacksonville has made their selection, so we think Wynn 1, LaFleur 2. Pick is on the way up with Philadelphia and Buffalo, the next 2 on the clock. This is the 21st selection. Pick is in. We just got a roar out of the crowd. It's hard to tell with things going on behind us, but it was for a while a circus atmosphere here, but now the New York teams have made their picks a little bit more quiet. Let's go back up to the podium.
With the 21st pick in the first round, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Ronaldo Wynn, defensive tackle, Notre Dame. The Philadelphia Eagles are now on the clock.
Well, we know Joe's excited with a gold domer in the first round, and we know that Tom Jackson really likes Ronaldo Wynn. Time for another demonstration. What does he do a little different than the guys that have just gone a few picks ahead on the defensive front, Tommy?
Well, Chris, I thought that Ronaldo Wynn was the best combination defensive end, defensive tackle in the draft, and he was the quickest guy that I saw off the football. You take a look at him in action, you see him legitimately beat the double team. He has a low center of gravity. Now, remind yourself